Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to thank you so much for coming today. Many of you were here for the art exhibit on Friday night and had an opportunity to see how the teens view their world and how they express their feelings. And so many of them, the feelings are in the inside and you don't see them on the outside. And so much of the art pictured that dichotomy of the image that they're putting forward and also the image of what they're feeling inside. So I was very pleased to see that. The community conversation is an important thing to Martin Library, and we're really looking forward to the information that will be shared. We also today will be giving awards to the top 4 students who took part in our art exhibit. So, Mr. Lambert, Robert, would you care to join us?
Testing. Would I care to join you? Really? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Lambert, and I am president of York County Libraries. Thank you, Milan, for that very, very warm welcome. And thank you all for being here today. When we ask the question, do my feelings matter? We're not just posing the question to teens. We're really asking our entire community to reflect on how we listen, how we show up for one another, and how we create space where every voice counts. Here at York County Libraries, we believe that stories, especially those shared by our youth, are very powerful. They challenge us. They teach us. And they remind us that the next chapter of our community depends on how well we hear one another and how much we care. That's why we've launched Community Conversations, a platform to do just that and to do more than just talk. We want to listen. It's a space to connect across generations and experiences, to elevate the perspectives that too often go unheard, and to learn and lean into empathy with intention. This is not just a program. It's a movement toward a more compassionate, more just, and human community. We do this by bringing teens together with artists, advocates, and everyday people with stories that resonate. And by sharing these voices with art, poetry, and thoughtful dialogue, we help each other see the world and ourselves a little more clearly. So what can you expect this afternoon? You'll hear raw, honest reflections through poetry and panel dialogue. You'll meet young people, brave people who are brave enough to share what's on their hearts. And you'll have a chance later this evening to add your voice, your questions, and your commitment to this shared journey. Let today be a spark. Let it inspire more conversations in homes, in classrooms, in places of worship, and yes, even right here in the library. Because when we create space for young people to ask, do my feelings matter? And we respond with a full-hearted yes. We're not just building a better library or a better program. We're building a better community. So thank you all for being here this afternoon. This is one of many community conversations that we are developing. It is part of our mission to be a catalyst for these kinds of conversations, to drive these kinds of conversations among our community members, and I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much.
I want to take a moment now to introduce Susan Korsnick. Susan is our teen youth services not director, but the person who prepares and does the teen program countywide. She's been very important in this process of connecting teens countywide to this program. And Susan's going to come up now and present the awards to the teens whose art won in our art exhibit. We have first, second, and third place, and we also did a fan favorite. So Susan, if you can come now.
It's our pleasure here at YCL to provide a welcoming place for all of our teens to express themselves. And you know, we've had teens express themselves through poetry, spoken word, through their cosplay costumes. There's so many different ways. And today we celebrate the people that express themselves through their art. The judges had a tough time. We had 34 entries from across 20 school districts, and we had 5 homeschoolers and even some other people from cyber schools, and it was just an amazing response to the question, do my feelings matter? And the answer to that is yes, your feelings do matter. And we are so proud of you for being brave enough to bring your, not just express yourself through your art, but then to bring it here and share it with the rest of us. Because I've walked around and I took in all of your submissions and read the descriptions, and they're powerful. So if you haven't had a chance yet to look around at the art, I suggest you take a break at some point and do that, because the best thing we can do for our teens, I think, is listen and provide support, and that's what YCL is all about. Thank you, families, teachers, therapists, the judges, the YCL staff, everyone who made this possible. But of course, most of all, thank you to the teens that took the chance and showed the courage to express themselves. So now it's my honor to say who the winners were. And our third place winner could not be here today. She is out traveling, so her dad was here at the exhibit, and he was so proud of her, and sadly she couldn't see, you know, the ribbon hanging next to her art. But we will still honor Estella Dugger, who is from York Academy Regional Charter School, and her piece is called Journaling is My Escape from the Chaos. It is over there on the table, and that is a mixed media piece. So let's give her a round of applause, and hopefully she feels the energy. Our second place winner is here, and her name is Amelia Jones. She's from Bermudian Springs High School, and her piece is called House of Cards, and that was a mixed media piece. So congratulations to Amelia Jones.
Give you your first place ribbon and your gift for winning the program. And thank you so much for presenting your work to us.
And Amelia won $200. Okay, our first place winner is Jasalyn Irwin from KDO Academy, and her piece is The Powerful Eye that was done in charcoal, the title of which is He Will Wipe Away Every Tear, Revelations 21, verse 4. Jasalyn?
I want to present to you again your first place prize.
Thank you.
And thank you for participating. And there's a gift for the work that you did to present that
Thank
art
you.
to us.
Thanks.
Jasalyn won $250. And now for our viewer's choice. The fan favorite was chosen by everyone who came and took a look at the opening reception exhibit that we had on Friday night. And that included the families. Some of the teachers were here. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who voted. The winner of the viewer's choice is Deja from Red Lion Area School District. Her piece is mixed media, and the title of it is Daylight. It's the beautiful piece back there being modeled by our very own Vanna White, also known as Laura Lynn.
Okay. Thank you, and everyone just loved your piece of art, and the votes that you got were amazing. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank
And
you.
here's a gift for your participation in our program.
Thank you.
And there will be much more that we offer around art and other creative expressions and ways for teens to be heard. And we're here to listen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you again to all the artists who participated, and especially the winners. When we're finished with our conversation, I hope that everyone takes an opportunity to go back and look at the art that was submitted and the winners of our art show. We also have the area open in our lobby and on our second floor landing and in our teens department for you to take a look at as you're getting ready to leave this evening. The panel is made up of 3 students and 3 adult community members. Let me share a little bit with you about our students first. Kailey Lopez is currently 18 and is a senior at York Tech. Upon graduation, she will be attending York College for a bachelor's degree in nursing. She holds mental health at a high importance and believes it's just as important as our physical health. Her belief is everyone has a story and struggles. It's up to us to give each other that healthy space we need to work through it and to heal. So thank you, Kailey, for participating. I want to share with you also Milan Gerald. Milan is a 17-year-old artist and poet. She attends York Suburban High School and is currently in the 11th grade. She's been interested in the arts since she was a little girl, constantly being around creative individuals in her family and endless encouragement. Milan enjoys creating art that focuses on feelings of nostalgia and longing. Aside from the arts, Milan likes psychology and hopes to attend med school to become a psychiatrist. However, she'd still want to be creative in her everyday life, perhaps publishing a poetry book or displaying her art in an exhibit. In 5 years, she sees herself in a bustling city, attending school, and hopefully having time to create. In 10 years, she hopes to have published something and or displayed some of her art. She already is a frequenter at open mic nights and has been asked to share her poetry at 3 events, which makes her feel optimistic about the future. And thank you, Milan, for participating. Our third teen who is participating in our discussion today is Rebecca Bartholomew. Rebecca is currently in her junior year of high school. She is passionate about advocating for mental health and encouraging others to seek support when they need it. After high school, Rebecca plans to attend college and pursue a career in nursing. Her ultimate goal is to become a travel nurse, combining her love for helping people and her passion for exploring new places. So welcome our teen panelists here this evening. I also want to call attention to our adult panelist. Lisa Kennedy is a family peer support specialist with the York County Department of Human Services. She has been serving families in this role for over 5 years and has remained focused on doing work with families for more than 30 years. Her educational background began years ago with a bachelor's in business administration and minor in accounting, but her greatest passion has been realized in the world of human services and education. She has served as a commissioner on the PA Governor Wolf's Behavioral Health Commission in 2022, co-chair of the PA Mental Health Planning Council through the Office of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. She tri-chair of the PA Care Partnership State Leadership and Management Team and chair of the Racial Equity Grant Fund for the York County Community Foundation. Lisa is currently the president of the school board of the school district of the city of York. Deciding to seek a seat on the school board was made after having spent years supporting families in schools with family engagement and serving for a couple of years as an appointed school board member of Lincoln Charter School and Thankston Charter School. Lisa has been a Title I district representative for 10 years in the past and a Title I school district monitor, and has been a trainer for several school districts and organizations. And thank you for being here with us, Lisa. Next is Karen Stabley. Karen is a licensed psychotherapist and registered art therapist working with women to achieve goals and overcome past trauma. Body image issues as well as depression and anxiety can be relieved through art therapy techniques. Karen uses art therapy techniques including drawing, painting, and sculpture. Through art therapy, Karen makes therapy fun and relaxing. She has the ability to connect with each client, and her experience with art as a therapist tool gets results in those families and women's lives. With a master's degree in creative arts therapy from Hahnemann University, she has learned the secret to providing individuals a safe way of expressing strong and sometimes sensitive emotions. So thank you, Karen, for being here today. I really appreciate your willingness. And our final panelist is Nigel Leslie. Nigel is a behavioral health associate who works at the Family First Health's Hannah Penn School-Based Health Center. Nigel mentors the Hannah Penn Health Advisory Council, along with Nicole Tomei, the health center manager. The Health Advisory Council is made up of students who utilize the health center. Health Stars, as the group teens is fondly referred to, recently participated in a 1-hour focus group with Martin Library staff, where students explored emotional and mental wellness for teens through creative expression. Nigel was a great addition to this panel as he works with teens on a daily basis, supporting their physical and emotional health within the school setting. So let's welcome all of our panelists today. At this time, Kailey Lopez, if you'll come forward and read your poem for us. I hope everybody brought tissues. I really do.
Hello. Thank you all for having me today. I'll be sharing a poem at first, and if we want to hear another, I have another just in case for you. This first poem is called Wilted Rose, and it does address mental health, especially in teens. And I like to relate this city to a flower. As we know, York is called the white rose. So I do a lot of analogies with that, so I hope you enjoy that. The wilted rose. I was broken, and now I'm healed. I'm sure a few of you can understand how that feels. Have you seen a rose on the road, lying in its own tears, wilted and breaking, the world passing by as it goes unnoticed? It's not on display, not in a vase or part of a bouquet. It was tossed aside and it rained harder than it ever did. But there the pretty rose laid. As the people walked and the cars drove by, the lights stayed on, but nobody heard the rose's cry. And when noticed, after so much time, I would ask, how could such a beautiful thing wilt? How could it break? It was the oh so beautiful rain. How many steps had the rose fell on its leaves? Had its petals really fallen so easily? I say this with reason. Look at your daughters, look at your sons. You give corrections and redirection, and it's lesson after lesson. Necessary indeed. But remember to really look deep. Past the I'm okays, past the I'm fines, you see the hurt they hold behind their eyes? Their fear of failing, of falling short. They just need your support. We've lost too many of the youth because they didn't know how to say, I'm hurting too. Because we walked by, didn't question their facade, and for some of them, it's already too late. Some of them we couldn't save. Some of them were gone too soon, ripped away from us before we saw the hurt. Roses wilted, leaves stripped from the stem, thorns left to remind us of the ache that lies ahead. The city is symbolized by a white rose, and yet there are so many roses still growing but trampled and hurt before they could bloom. Let's take care of our youth, for they are our future. You will one day see us in charge, but how can we excel without your support? How can we excel if you don't believe? How can I believe in you when you don't believe in me? So support us and pick us up when we're in the rut. Offer sound advice when we don't know where to go next. Hold us when our hurt is simply too much to bear, and love us despite all of our flaws, because the youth needs you. If you see a rose wilting in the rain, pick it up and give it a new purpose again. I said, if you see a rose wilting in the rain, pick it up and give it a new purpose again. Because we are failing each other by simply walking by, failing by not picking each other up, failing by not hearing the cries, the sad eyes, by not giving support and understanding each other when we need it most. So pick up the roses. Your daughters, your sons, your friends, gather all of them. And even though they're wilted and bent, together as a community, we create this beautiful masterpiece. Thank you. I'll be sharing a second poem if y'all are up for that. Yes. This next poem addresses school shootings. I do want to put out there, these statistics are based on about September of last year, but these issues are still relevant, and it's still something that affects teens and affects the world completely, and it especially has an impact on our mental health. This is called Silent Halls. There's silence in the halls. The teacher is talking as we listen to instructions, but I'm listening to my heartbeat. Thump, 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 and then bang! 1, 2, 3. I stop. I still. And for a moment, I wonder if it's me, if it was time. But I hear it. Thump, thump, thump. I realized that it was just the gym weights. The weight room so near, sound so loud. Thump, thump, thump. The room that had turned into silence once again starts as we all register that it was just the gym weights, that it wasn't our time. Yet as conversation starts and instructions continue, my mind wanders too. But what if it hadn't been? I'm on edge for the rest of the week. Since 2013 in the U.S., there have been 1,322 incidents involving gunfire on school grounds. Of those 1,322 incidents, 436 deaths occurred and 936 injuries across the nation. So excuse me if I don't always feel safe at school. If some days I go through the halls on edge. If I flinch every time I hear a book fall a little too hard. My senses are on fire. I'd rather notice everything than notice nothing. Would rather be on edge than notice when it was too late. In 4 out of 5 school shootings, at least one other person knew of the attacker's plan before it happened. So why aren't we speaking up? Noticing the signs? If you know something, then say something. It could save so many lives. So many lives. So keep an ear out before it's too late. There's too many kids, too many future generations at stake. In 2024 so far, the U.S. has experienced 45 school shootings, and 32 of them were on K-12 grounds. These aren't just numbers. They aren't just statistics. These are children. These are teens, 45. I feel like I can't breathe. It could have been me. It could have been you. I turn on the news and it breaks my heart. How could they do this to you? 45. Out of those 45, one of them could have very well been mine. More than 383,000 students have experienced gun violence at school since 1999. Imagine the trauma, the pain, the loss of innocence from just one day. It's something they'll carry with them every day, a fear that won't diminish, a life-altering experience, PTSD that they'll forever live with. And what about all the ones that didn't survive? Little girls and boys that didn't get to experience life. I think it's time we as a country need to start recognizing the signs, need to stop saying never again. Never again after Columbine, never again after Virginia Tech, never again after Douglas High School, never again after Sandy Hook, never again after Uvalde, never again after Robb Elementary, never again after Appalachia. How many never agains do we have to say? How many no mores? How many kids have to die for us to do something? I'm 18, and I'm terrified. How can a school turn into a battlefield, a classroom into a morgue, bullets flying, children dying, and I'm crying for all the parents whose babies are gone. And in school, they don't say a word. Nobody talks about the world's hurt. But these shootings, these pains, it hurts to talk about, but we have to face reality. This is me starting the conversation, since nobody else has. And I'm so tired of silencing these thoughts, these fears. Help us, we're just kids. And the halls just keep getting silent. Where's our security as the future of this country? Poem. Thank you very much for listening to my words.
Thank you.
And I'm supposed to speak after that. Thank you, Kailey. At this time, I want to introduce our moderator, and we will have one more poet to read their poetry before Jennifer comes up to lead us in the discussion. Our moderator is Jennifer Foxworthy. Jennifer was born and raised in York, Pennsylvania. Once she graduated high school from William Penn Senior High in 1991, she embarked on a journey that would lead her into an illustrious career serving in the United States Navy. Jennifer served her country proudly for 21 years, September 23, 1991 to April 30th, 2013. Retiring as a Chief Petty Officer. Jennifer is an unstoppable force to be reckoned with as she excels as the founder and CEO of Inspirationally Speaking. and the founder and CEO of Unstoppable You Ministries. Jennifer continues to be of service to others through her purpose and passion as an award-winning distinguished Toastmaster, motivational speaker, e-speaker, certified virtual presenter, internationally published author of Tomorrow My Sunshine Will Come, memoirs of women who survived domestic violence, television show host of Living Unshackled, On Purpose, host of Unstoppable You Conference, corporate trainer, as well as a prolific blogger of Gumbo. As an inspirational influencer, Jennifer travels the country as a powerful keynote speaker to help her clients have FIT, focused, intentional, and thriving mindset so they can find their personal peace, purpose, and power. Jennifer does this by transparently using her life experience on topics of self-esteem, domestic violence awareness, leadership development, overcoming adversity, self-care, and much more. Jennifer states, essentially, I use my voice to help others. And before Jennifer joins us, I would like Milan Gerald to come to the podium and share some of her poetry and some of her story. Thank you, Milan.
Hello, I have two poems. I think that one thing that definitely weighed on my mental health when I was younger was representation, because I grew up in a lot of schools where I didn't see anyone that really looked like me, and especially on television or in books, I just didn't really feel like I was beautiful, and I know that a lot of people can relate to that. So this poem is called Blackness. What was once thought to have been a curse upon our people, evidenced by the inhumane trade of the ancestors, shame digging into our skin like the shackles and chains that bound them, blackness. It's not easy to say that as a little girl, I believed the lies that had been ingrained. As a little girl, I believed blackness was a plague. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What a shame. Black is beautiful, Ma would say. But to me, it was hard to believe in the unseen and cast aside. The sidekicks, the maids, the mammies, the thugs. Your blackness is no better than dung. What a shame. Ma's words would warble into whispers in the cacophony of constant calling out of the contrary. You'd be prettier if you were lighter. If only that plague, if only that blackness would fade. I can still remember those nights when I prayed for deliverance from this so-called plague. I was a little girl, and I was already resenting the way I was made. Standing here now, reflecting on how far I've come, from hating the brown skin glazed by the sun, the crown that raises to the sky, my lips that are able to generate rhymes. I am proud to be able to appreciate every trait I have the privilege of calling mine. Poem. And I also have another one. I know that, there's a lot of uncertainty in this country, and I think that something that isn't really talked about is after an election and after you get the results, especially being a minority. Just, it feels like all eyes are on you, and people are just silently judging you or blaming you for things. Of a country she only lives in is felt by a lifeline, blood from past lifetimes, bloom the strangest fruit. All colonial buildings and a destiny that manifests in destruction. A young girl walks home. A decision of a country she only lives in is not up to her. Yet she feels the stares from cars that wave flags of a confederacy that hopes to keep her in bondage. Of a bygone era not filled with greatness, filled with calloused hands, empty of all held dear, filled with the dreams of someone else, nursing the baby that belongs to someone else. Bear through all of the labor, bear none of the fruits. The fruit whose juice dribbles a crimson color when bitten into. A fruit nursed by someone who was forbidden to nurse her own child. A fruit that in its whipped flesh carried the anguish of one and the ambitions of another. A girl walks home. A decision of a country her bloodline lived in is not up to her, and she wonders if greatness is like that of a flag from another era. Except her blood doesn't remember this brand of greatness. The greatness spoken of tastes bitter on the tongue and claws its way down her throat and reverberates as it drips, down, down, down. The young girl is fearful as she walks home, toward a future unwritten, and she wishes they'll trade the blood for ink. Poem. Thank you.
Thank you, Milan. I think we can all go home now because we understand better the feelings of our teens, what they're experiencing on a daily basis, and how eloquent they are in expressing that. I'm very, very impressed and very touched. Jennifer, if you can join us now and help lead a discussion among our adults and teens, thank you.
I have to follow these incredible poems. Might I know how you feel? My goodness. It is actually a privilege and an honor to be here amongst these change champions. Thank you for using your voice, your skills, just everything you bring to the table for this community. So thank you. It's fitting that YCL President Robert Lambert, Mina, the whole team would host this event since May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So considering, do my feelings really matter? What a great theme. What are adults doing wrong when addressing teen mental health?
I think that a lot of times adults come from the perspective of being adults instead of thinking back to when they were children and when they were teenagers. And it kind of puts like a barrier between the teen and the adult because there's a lot of judgment if you look from I'm an adult, I know everything, instead of just being like, I was there too, I was young too, and maybe I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I can sympathize with it.
Absolutely, sympathy. Excellent.
I think adults tend to overlook that kids can experience depression and mental health like issues. I think some, not just parents, but teachers too. If a child comes forward with something, they often like, oh, you're just a kid, you know what you're talking about. You know, you're just a kid. What do you have to be depressed about? You don't pay bills or nothing. And you don't just have to be paying bills to be depressed. There's other reasons why a kid can be depressed. So I think definitely them tying their adult problems to the kids makes it a very big issue.
Well said.
I'll actually go off a bit about that as well. I think a lot of times it's the ideal that as an adult, you have a lot more stresses, you have a lot more things going on, so it'd be understandable to experience all these feelings. But then also, like, even experiencing things as a teenager, the idea of school and tasks and maybe extracurriculars or everything that you have to do is kind of diminished in a sense. And adults may not mean to like portray that, but often that's how a teen might feel, just based off of conversations and how something is addressed. It's hard enough for teens to come forward about how they're feeling. So when that aspect of it is brought of, well, you're not an adult yet, you don't have to deal with all of this stuff. it's also like Milan had mentioned as well, to put themselves in our shoes as well as a kind of understanding sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So you're looking for a sense of compassion and empathy. Thank you. So since the microphone is down on that end, Ms. Karen, would you like to respond?
I really like what I'm hearing because I think you're really hitting the nail on the head. And I think sometimes it's so difficult for young people to feel safe to express their feelings, not only with their parents, and it is so brave to be able to even talk about what they're feeling. And I think kids are sometimes so pressured by the external stressors that they're so overwhelmed with what they're feeling, and they sometimes just don't have that safe person to talk to, and that's really difficult for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I do think sometimes what adults are doing kind of wrong is, especially I see it in my practice, the parents are reacting to what the kids are talking about rather than listening and
That's
creating
key.
a safe space. They're reacting, I'm sure you see it too. Teachers are, oh my gosh, don't say that, or whatever. And that doesn't feel safe for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Karen. Mr. Nigel?
Yes, I was going to say I agree exactly with what you said. I think that it's extremely important for us to provide a place with students, like you said, a comfortable place. For us, we made a big point and had been to provide a calming space area for students in the school to utilize throughout the school day, because they need that time, they need that opportunity to come down and have a place where they can express and release whatever it is of what's going on. That's extremely important, so I agree.
Thank you, Mr. Nigel. Lisa, we'll kick it over to you.
So I echo the sentiments of everyone here, and I would just add from the lens of youth and through my experience in working with youth and families, what I hear from young people all the time is that we recognize as adults, kids should follow our instructions and listen to us, and so, but we also need to recognize that while kids are listening to us, they watch what you do. So one of the things that youth have often said to me is that, why would I talk about what my stuff is when I see that my parent or the big person in their lives isn't taking care of their own stuff? So they don't feel safe and don't have that proper place to go to be able to share whatever it is that they are experiencing. So recognizing that we as big people need to recognize the power of what we do and how we do, and whatever we're dealing with rolls off on our children.
Yes.
And their ability to be able to separate and pay attention to not just what you say out of your mouth, but pay more attention to what you do and recognizing that.
Absolutely. It's spot on. Thank you. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. I know there's also this belief a lot of times for you guys as parents and adults that you might need to stay strong in a sense for a kid, especially through tragedies or like whatever circumstances that may be going on at home or in the community, that parents, I have seen myself, tend to just, okay, well, we have to be strong for the kid and show them that everything's going to be fine. But I think it's when you're putting yourself out there and showing that vulnerability, it also shows us that we are allowed to be vulnerable, that we're allowed to express our feelings and have those feelings.
Absolutely.
Because we might have them sometimes, but because we see everybody else trying to keep it together, but we want to keep it together too because we don't want to bring them down.
Exactly. Yes, very articulate, very well said. We need to understand that we create, us adults, the parents, the guardians, caretakers, we create our child's normal, whatever that looks like. So if it's unhealthy boundaries, a lack of proper communication, that's what they will embody. And so you're absolutely right, Kailey. So my next question, for starting with the youth: how does one deal with the weight of the world? considering just everything that we talked about, what you shared in your poetry, ladies, and what boundaries, if any, have you put in place to navigate that weight of the world? So how do you deal with it? What are your thoughts?
I think that my outlet has been poetry and art, and also speaking to other people who have the same worries that I do about, the future of the world and things like that. And I think that a boundary would be not looking at the news all the time.
I agree.
I know definitely for me, I want to make sure that I know everything that's going on and that I'm staying educated about like all these terrible things that are happening. And it's like a privilege to be able to look away. But I think that sometimes, people are not supposed to be able to see all this terribleness all the time, and people aren't supposed to be living all this terribleness. And just making sure that you're aware, but also taking a step back when needed.
Absolutely, very well said. Definitely taking sabbaticals is necessary.
For me, I would say journaling. I love to journal, to just sit in a quiet place, listen to music and journal. Another thing is finding a community that you feel like you belong in, whether that's church, whether that's a group of friends. For me, I like going to church. I feel very welcome going to church. I feel at peace when I'm at church. A boundary for me would be not spending my time on social media as much.
Good for you.
We tend to scroll a lot, like consuming other people's life, that we forget that we have our own lives to go live. And once you start consuming other people's life, you start looking at everything in your life, and you start thinking that your life is just horrible. But if you just like take a step back, you're like, I'm sure you'll find something that's going right in your life.
Excellent, excellent. Well said.
For me personally, I've always been like a very emotional, sensitive person. So when I feel things, I feel them deeply. And that's actually how I came to poetry. And my journey of poetry, like, it just began as like understanding my feelings, but as like growing up and being able to see so many things going on around the world, and like one of my poems about like the school shootings, even that has like a huge effect on teens. And you can't just not see it because there's so many things that are like right in front of you. And it's hard to be able to just, for example, in that situation, just go to school with peace of mind because, there's so many things going on around the country, about like your state, even the community. And that causes a lot of anxiety. So for me, my outlet has become poetry. Not only to understand my feelings, even though that's how it started, but in order to process what is going on around me, and in order to speak for those that also don't have a voice, that can't share this themselves. And that's brought me a lot of peace in a sense, because when I share my words, which I've gone to open mics, I've participated in the cultural jam here, and every time I'm able to do that, I'm able to share that and have people come to me and say that they feel heard and understood. So that's something that's helped me. And just a boundary for me is kind of like knowing that I don't have to empty my cup in order to pour into everybody
Come
else.
on now. Come on now. Yes.
We have to remember to prioritize ourselves sometimes and our well-beings, because as much as we want to help everybody else, sometimes we just have to take a step back and focus on us a bit.
Awesome. Lisa, I'm going to start with you, Miss Lisa. What do you say? And I actually want to know, what boundary do you put in place now?
The immediate thing that comes to mind for me is the importance and value of self-care. And many of us live very, very busy lives, multitasking, doing 10 or 15 things at one time. And sometimes that busyness is to avoid self-reflection, is to avoid pausing and taking a moment and thinking about self. But I encourage you to set a boundary that includes self-care. Self-care to me is not spending a bunch of money doing something, but self-care is maybe taking 5 or 10 minutes to sit down and pause during a nice sunny day on a bench at a park.
Yep.
pulling that book off the shelf that you bought a month ago and hadn't had a chance to read. Taking instead of taking a shower, taking a bubble bath and lighting some candles and relaxing. Self-care is about taking that time to rejuvenate, and it's important. The other part of self-care is recognizing that kids need self-care too. And recognizing that their schedules look like schedules of adults nowadays, with all of the involvement that they are in, that they are connected to now as well as children. They need time to be kids. They need time to sit still. They need to understand the process of life that we see and experience, but also at the part of that is, what do you do for yourself? And so when we are busy doing so much for other people, we must stop and pause and take care of ourselves first.
That definitely makes sense. I think we don't allow our youth to enjoy their youthism. We want them to be mini adults, and then we chastise them when they're going in the wrong direction. So Nigel, since you're on that end, if you can grab the mic, and what say you?
Say that I agree with everyone has said. It's a big importance, unplugging. I make sure that I appreciate and value my time. Like she spoke about self-care. I know that we have a lot of things going on daily, but I always stop and ask myself, especially being in the field that I'm in and working with students and families, you spend a lot of time caring for others and doing for others. You have to take the time and ask yourself, when's the last time that I, like she said, either got off social media or put my phone down or, went outside and just took a break. Those things are extremely important and go a long way for yourself. So I agree 100% with what everyone said.
Excellent. Ms. Karen?
I totally agree with everybody and journaling and self-care. But, the other thing is, with not going on social media, trying to use that time to journal or do a little piece of art. And one of the things that I also talk about a lot in sessions with my clients is being in the moment and mindfulness and kind of taking a deep breath and noticing what it feels like to sit in a chair and to just be in the room that you're in. And so much anxiety there's just so much anxiety these days. And I say oftentimes, just look around, is anything on fire? No, nothing is, the roof isn't caving in. Take a deep breath, go into your body, notice what your body is doing and saying, and then just relax. I know, it sounds like it's easy, and it's not. I'm like, oh, just relax. It's not like that. Just go into your body and ask every muscle in your body to just take a moment. Those are just some of the things that I think are important to get us through every day.
Absolutely. Giving yourself permission to pause. It's the power of the pause. I am interested from the youth. I often hear, I don't have any friends, or how do I go about finding friends? I don't have a social connection, because there is a social wellness, having those core people that have your back, helping you to be self-aware, encouraging you to take those breaks. So what do you say to the youth, the teen, who seems isolated, pulling back? How do they engage to find those core people?
I would say putting yourself out there, although putting yourself out there is not always as easy as it sounds. Like for me, I like being around people, but I need to be by myself to charge up. Being around people, like I get drained. So oftentimes I like being isolated, but for some people being isolated is too much. I definitely would say maybe like start off talking to your classmates. I don't know, going to the lunchroom. I know some kids are often afraid to go to the lunchroom because there's a lot of people and they don't know anybody. So sitting at a random table, it sounds scary going into the lunchroom, but like
I promise you, you'll find somebody like welcome to you to the table and start talking to you. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Personally, for me and like what's helped me, I'm very introverted myself, and so, like she said, like even just going up to people is like a challenge sometimes for me. But I have found that like even just finding like groups, like hobbies that you're interested in, your friends don't always have to be from school. And something I've learned is that sometimes you can have classmates and people that you may speak to at school here and then, but they don't have to be your best friends. They can be your classmates that you share time with. And I personally have found friendships outside of school, through church, through, like if you're interested in, I'm interested in poetry, so I've gone through open mics, participated in the library's teen events, and little things like that and groups like that have opened up the opportunity for friendships and to meet new people. So just kind of like seeking those hobbies of yours that you like, even if you like reading a book, going to a bookstore if you see someone that has a book that you want to read, like just starting a conversation based on that. It doesn't always have to be something big and scary that you have to, you know, go up to a big crowd, but, you know, just starting small really makes a difference.
Okay, excellent. Milan? Some really great answers.
I would
Very
100% agree with the sentiments. Put yourself out there, and also not all your friends have to be from school. I know that for a while, especially, well, all throughout growing up until recently, I used to suffer from social anxiety. So putting myself out there was something that was very, very difficult for me. But something that definitely helped me was realizing that, you know, sometimes people aren't going to be as close as I want them to be. And that's really hard to cope with sometimes, especially if someone seems really cool, but sometimes they just don't message you like that, you know? And let me think what else. Also, just finding places outside of school, because sometimes it can just be your environment. There's nothing wrong with you, it's just where you are. And I know in my school, it was very hard for me to find friends, especially like lasting friends. And then once I started going outside of school and coming to the library or even just getting a job, I realized that, you know, there's people who enjoy my presence and there's people that like me. And it was just the school and just the environment that I was in. And just also being comfortable with being by yourself. Just because you're alone doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're lonely, but it also is valid to be lonely. Yeah, and also just finding people that you can connect with, like people, similar hobbies, things like that.
That's a great answer. Now, Ms. Karen, I'm going to start with you. Based on your profession, how would you draw someone, a youth, or even an adult out of their shell so they don't isolate themselves? To me, isolation can be good, time and place, but it also is the devil's playground when you're in a mental health crisis or feeling depressed or lonely. So how do you use your profession to welcome or engage?
Oh, that's a great question. I see a lot of kids with social anxiety, and it's really difficult, you know, walking into that cafeteria and seeing, you know, who can I befriend, or the noise is way too loud for me, you know, it's really hard. I see a lot of clients that end up making connections online through gaming. And that's a really tricky double-edged sword, because they really do tend to then isolate and go into their shell. And so it's a really hard question. But I really do focus then on how do you make that first step and meet somebody in real life. And I'm thinking of a particular client who played online games with his friends from high school, but never really hung out with them. And so even asking someone to you know, come from the virtual world to real life. It was difficult, but I asked them to take tiny steps to do that. And it is about little tiny steps, you know, and I forget who had mentioned the shared interests. I think that's really important, and taking baby steps and looking at groups that may, you know, start online, but then sometimes they have in-person meetings. So, you know, just even trying to look up those kinds of situations, but it's all about baby steps and giving yourself permission to feel kind of awkward, and it's okay.
That's right, it is okay.
Yeah, and I always tell the kids I work with, you will find your people, they're out there. This may not be in this particular community or this particular high school.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lisa, and then Nigel, I'll get you, based on your profession, which is many hats, but coming from the school sector, what is being put in place or to draw the kids out of being alone or isolated? What do you see and how do you engage? So just your perspective.
I think when you talk about isolation, as has already been said, there's a difference between being alone and lonely. Being alone sometimes is necessary. It gives you time to check out all the craziness that might be going on. It gives you time to self-reflect, but also if you are someone who struggles with that time and place of being alone, and I'll even go so far as to share a personal example of trauma that occurred in my life and the struggle I had with being alone. Never had issues with being alone before, but having gone through the experience of being raped, I spent a number of years where I was afraid of being alone. Anytime I had to walk into a room and be alone, it wasn't necessarily that I was afraid of the intent of being alone. Being alone meant that I had to deal with and process through what was going on and what has happened with me. And I wasn't at a place and space to be ready to do that. And so I worked really hard to never be alone. But in our school setting, the opportunities, though, in our district, and particularly, we have a plethora of resources that are available for students at all times during the course of the school day. Then we also have mental health teams that work with our students and families, and they're on call 24 hours a day. However, for students who are having issues and struggling with anxieties about being alone, or the opposite, struggles with being in large groups, because that is a very real thing as well. There are staff available. We have social workers, we have caseworkers that are in all of our buildings that are available to support staff. And the important thing is recognizing relationship and understanding that connection to just one person. You know, one of my mantras is every child, every young person needs to connect to one big person. It doesn't have to be a parent, it doesn't have to be a teacher, but having that relationship that they can go to and be their authentic selves and not have to fake what they're feeling, fake what they're experiencing, for fear of what the response is going to be is important. So recognizing, and then also as adults, being vulnerable with youth sometimes, as I believe one of the young ladies talked about, that strength thing that we have to do as parents. We have to, portray that we are strong at all times. And sometimes that little bit of vulnerability that kids can see in us, whether it is a teacher and a student. You might be a student who's struggling academically in a class, and you talk to the teacher, and the teacher might say, hey, I'm now teaching this subject, but when I was your age, I had the same struggle. So making those connections, relationship matters, that's key.
Yes, that's perfectly said. Nigel, from your profession, what you're doing at Hennepin, how do you help them navigate? How do you engage?
Well, first I would say that I think that we can all agree that times have changed over the past few years when it comes to socializing overall. Maybe some of the older generations have an easier time, socializing and talking and meeting people and interacting with others as we've advanced with technology and as we talked about in the gaming. That's kind of, changed these students and younger youth perspective in engaging with one another. So I don't think that it's an ultimate key or ideal, one-stop solution to, engaging. But I do encourage my students to just, get outside and interact with one another. Like, for example, I have 2 or 3 students that I work with individually who are, they have extreme social anxiety. But what I like to do is I like to get those 3 students together in particular in a room and do small activities. Like she was saying, it's small steps overall.
That's right.
It's not a one track end all be all. It's a slow process. So.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad that you brought that up. I was attending a children's crisis intervention forum earlier this week, and it was brought up that peer-to-peer support for youth can be critical. So in my next question, do you feel safe discussing mental health? And I'm talking to the 3 ladies here, with your friends, and how can we incorporate that peer-to-peer support? Because children, they are less likely to tell another child that something is going on vice an adult. So for the youth, do you feel comfortable receiving that information, or how do you put it out there? What signs do you look for if a friend is, or anybody is not well?
So I'm definitely someone who feels really comfortable talking about my mental health to an extent. So a lot of times that energy kind of comes off on other people if they in turn feel comfortable sharing that stuff with me. And I think that just having a space for people to be able to feel comfortable as well as yourself feel comfortable, because you have to remember to let yourself also be comforted by a peer instead of it just being one-sided. I think that that's really important.
Okay.
And I think something that I look for with my friends is definitely how they usually act, and I see if there's any differences, just checking up on people. You might not even tell any differences, and someone could be struggling. Just making sure that you're keeping in contact with your friends and people who, that you care about. I think that that's definitely important. And also just being yourself around people. I know it's easier said than done, but I think that that creates a space for people to be open and honest about themselves as well.
Perfect, 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 perfect. We'll go down the line.
I would say I'm really comfortable talking about mental health to my peers. Again, like she said, to a certain extent. Personally, like naturally, people often come to me to tell me about stuff. And I feel like if you make yourself, not that you have to internalize people's trauma, but just being able to hear it. I tend to, like, people come to me and tell me their personal business, and even if I can't relate, I try to just put myself in their shoes. Signs that I look for, I personally have mental health problems, so I always look for the word I'm fine. A lot of times you say I'm fine, it gets to a point, like after 2, I'm fine.
I'm fine, I'm okay, yes. Good for you.
Just the way if you're usually an outgoing person, if you want to notice that you're usually quiet, I always check up on them. If usually they would send a text or do a text, I usually call them just to make sure everything's going right.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Kailey, what say you?
For me personally, I have gone through both the sharing and the not sharing, and I have learned over time that I don't like sharing so much with my peers. So it really depends. I learned that there's certain people that you should be sharing with, And you can get to the point where you could be sharing with someone just because you feel like you need to release it, and you share it to the wrong person. Because although you might want to believe that if you share with somebody else how you're feeling, they might not keep it to themselves.
Right.
And it might become a thing. So I have learned that in a sense, not saying that, you know, you can't share, but it's like being careful who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And I've personally learned to like just have those certain people. So yes, I have some family, but then I also have like certain closer people that I can go to myself. Like I have my best friend, I have my boyfriend, so that I know like who I can go to and who I can rely on. That you have those trusted people, so you don't feel uncomfortable in a sense afterwards. And I'm sorry, what's your other question?
I think you,
Signs.
yeah, what signs, yeah.
Signs that I look for recently, I'm kind of like that friend that people go to sometimes. So just like they said, like when somebody's withdrawn or maybe if they're having more trouble in school than they usually would, quieter, just not themselves. I like to check up on them because I also
Kick this question over to you. How do you show the youth that you're a trusted adult, that they don't have to keep everything to themselves? How do you break down those barriers, those walls? And what does that look like?
Well, obviously, every student is different, everybody's different. I do my best to obviously maintain a no judgment and, you know, obviously I'm not allowing them to come in with any expectation or any pressure. But I do my best to allow them to guide the conversation. Obviously with boundaries and parameters,
Right.
you know, where we're going. But I always allow them to dictate, you know, what they're thinking, how they're feeling. We'll start obviously with that day in particular. Try to open up for them to acknowledge exactly how they feel in the moment, like we spoke about earlier. But we also spoke earlier about relationship in general. So even if we have a small conversation, specifically that day, I do my best to maintain that relationship and continue to check on them regularly, even if it's popping into the classroom for a second. Then sending an invitation for them to come and see me again. But I do my best to, like I said, create a judgment-free zone to make them feel as welcome as possible.
Perfect. Lisa, do the educators get training? I mean, active listening, empathy, compassion. I know every adult is different and life be lifing. So how do you encourage educators to spot the signs instead of, oh my, I missed it, or we're not going to catch everything, but how do we mitigate? What are your thoughts?
So to answer the first part of your question around the training, yes, the training is available for staff. And there are certain levels of training that are done yearly for staff. But it goes back to some of those core things that may sound repetitive, but it's about relationship and connection and making sure that, you know, as a teacher in a classroom, you might have 20 students, 30 students, whatever your class size is, from day one, it's making a connection with each child. Everyone is individual, learning something about each one of those kids so that when the times get rough, you have some foundation to start a conversation with. It is very hard to engage someone who might be struggling and you don't have a relationship.
Right.
But this person has been in your class for half a year, but you still really don't have a relationship. So now what you're doing is checking a box. And checking boxes are necessary in protocol as far as, you know, did you do A, B, C, D, so on and so forth. Those things are procedurally necessary, but the important pieces fall between those check boxes. And that again is about the relationship and connection and communication and how you engage, and it's meeting people where they are and recognizing. You talk about signs, and the young ladies had talked about when they recognize peers are acting differently or doing different things. I'm a firm believer before the crisis, there are signs.
Mm-hmm.
If you've not paid attention, if you are so busy, even with children in your own home, again, recognizing there is difference. They give examples about it, and if your child is typically bubbly and all of a sudden every day they come home, they're in the bedroom with the door shut, you need to be asking questions.
Right.
If your children are changing the style of clothing they're wearing, and it hasn't been an ongoing conversation around the new style that they particularly like, you need to ask them questions. And sometimes it's about checking in with people. Again, checking in with kids is important. We as adults sometimes are pretty good with doing that with friends and colleagues, but we often forget to check in with our kids. We pick up, we roll along in the car, and we're headed home, and we maybe get out, how's your day? We don't get into all the other pieces of that. Not to say that you need to have 10 questions every day, but making sure that that connection is there so that you can be aware of when those signs are showing up. And when the signs show up, they don't have to be glaring. The house doesn't have to be on fire right away. So when you are seeing some of those small signs, maybe it's not even time yet you need to say anything, but you're saving it in your neural so that when you come back to it, if you see something else again, you're marking down and making note of these various changes, and then beginning the process of asking some questions to be able to provide support and hopefully guidance if necessary.
Yes, spot on, spot on. Ms. Karen, I'm curious as far as how do we get from your profession, bringing the youth and the adults together in the same room and being creative and just fostering that conversation around mental health or healing or just all the things that they go through? How do we peel back the layer?
Well, I think what I hear sometimes from the kids that I work with, and just a reminder to you young folks too, that you don't have to fix things for other people. We can't fix things for other people. And so sometimes a kid will say to me, oh, I'm telling you this, but don't tell my parent because they will want to intervene. They'll want to fix it. So I think the bigger message, and it's hard for parents because we want our kids to be happy. We are kind of programmed to, well, I'm just going to go and fix it. And I think what the kids are telling me is, I don't need you to fix this for me. I need you to listen. So it's more about that conversation and not trying to make things better for others. And I hear that a lot with peer to peer. The same thing with trust. I trusted this person and they betrayed me. And I'm sorry, I'm off topic.
Hey, you're expressing, so that's all right.
Yeah, I think it's just having that mindset that that you're here to listen. You're not there to fix things and make everything better. You're providing a safe space. And when families come and see me, that's the hardest thing for them to do because parents often have an agenda. My kid isn't doing this, this, and this, and they need to be doing, their grades are dropping, and blah, blah, blah. And it's more about listening to that child, that teen, about what's going on and not fixing it for them.
Exactly. Perfect. For our youth, do your feelings really matter? How do you express that to other teens, youth? And we need to be able to have our adults mimic that as well. So how do you foster that conversation? And I'll start with Kailey. as far as do your feelings really matter? How do you break the ice?
I myself have even like questioned them sometimes, and I think it's just teens taking into account that like your feelings are just as valid as anybody else's. And a lot of times we're just so worried about everybody else, and well, we don't want to hurt their feelings, or they might be bothered by this. But then there comes the question of, but what about you? And you have to take care of yourself, because you can't be there for everybody else and acknowledge everybody else's feelings and just harm yourself in the process. And that's something even I have experienced doing, and it's not healthy.
Right.
It just brings you down further. So just reflecting on that and realizing that you have a voice, you have feelings, and you're allowed to express them. That's something I didn't even know I could do until I started writing my poems, because that wasn't my safe space. Because I felt like I didn't have an outlet, and that's how I came to have one. And then to share that with other people so that others could understand that yes, their feelings do matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you think, young lady?
Just like she was saying, oftentimes as teens, we question ourselves if our feelings matter. I know for me, if something happens or somebody does something to me, I usually feel it really deep, and then 10 seconds later, I'm questioning myself if it was really that serious. Whatever you feel is that serious, no matter how you feel, no matter how small the situation may seem to you, however you felt it, then it impacted you big, then that means it has been something that had a very heavy impact on me. And I definitely think putting in boundaries will help. Like, if you're in a situation or a friendship, relationship, whatever, where somebody does something to you, you already addressed it the first time, second time, they're just clearly not caring.
Right.
There comes to a point where it's either you discuss with them, like, you know, hey, I adjusted the situation the first time, it doesn't seem like we care to make whatever changes that you need to make. Either we're not going to be friends or we're not continuing this relationship. Yeah, like she was saying, finding something that's your safe place for me is journaling, being able to express myself through my writing, and just, even if you don't like journaling, putting your phone up and recording yourself, just talking to yourself, act like you're talking to somebody, or audio voices, record yourself, and I usually do that, and like oftentimes I'll go back and listen to the ones that I did like a month ago, and you'll see the progress that you made with like from the first day, like your feelings to now, how good you've gotten at expressing your feelings.
Nice.
I 100% agree that keeping a record of your feelings is definitely really, really important. And I think that, yes, our feelings do matter. And I think that one way to really just remind yourself that it does is just being able to validate yourself and your own feelings and know why you're upset. And also being able, even though it's really difficult, being able to confront other people about when you feel like you were disrespected or how you feel hurt by something. I think that like a lot of times people, or we try to avoid conflict, but sometimes you need conflict in order to grow. And someone could not even know that they might have hurt your feelings with something until you say something. And I think that that's something that's super, super duper important.
Thank you. Lisa, how do we have the balance of all this? The youth today, they're too soft, or they need to be held accountable, but we also need to actively listen and come alongside. Is there a balance, and what does that look like?
There's definitely a balance, and as was mentioned, I believe, by Nigel, like, you know, kids are different from, you know, I'm not that old. Kids are different from, or the time is different than when we came along, and what is in front of kids and what kids are dealing with nowadays, and what we call peer pressure, you know, back in the day is not the peer pressure that kids are dealing with today. on top of the social media impact. Now, I was still in school when social media began, but, or the internet, let me say, was introduced, but it was not the phenomenon that it is today, and it was not the catalyst to danger, and to danger not only to physical being, but danger to emotional and mental health of individuals. And largely that is a huge challenge. So the difference is recognizing where kids are today. When a baby's born today, they are doing things now that they weren't doing when babies were born back when we were little. So recognize that there is a difference in expectations of kids. There's a difference because of what now they are exposed to. So finding that balance is really different, because we do have a lot of young people who are dealing with young people problems. And because of that, their life story is different. Their narrative is different than what it would have been. And so recognizing that we've got to find a way to, as the big people in their lives, is do the best we can to not give our kids the big people problems. And in that journey of taking care of things, so there's a place for being strong, and of course it's necessary, but recognizing the impact, because each individual receives that information and experience differently, and they react and respond differently as well. So recognizing what are you setting your kids up for, and asking yourself that question before you make the move. So balancing those particular pieces out, and then if you are a family with more than one child, recognize each child as an individual and what you may be able to say and do with one of your children, you might not be able to say and do with the other one, because they might not be ready, or might be age, or whatever is appropriate. All of those factors go into that. It seems like a lot of work, because it is, but it's important to recognize what is our ability as the big people to be able to balance what the impact is to the little ones in our lives. And just because young people, we become adults at 18, I'm a firm believer that adulthood is a state of mind. It is not a number. So recognizing that young people will also continue to need that direction. So it's finding that balance, asking yourself some questions, and sometimes if you aren't really sure, take a pause and hold on to that information for a day or two and revisit that question. And if you find that it remains necessary and urgent for you to share it, and find a way that is appropriate, age appropriate for the young person to share. But you will also find when you take a pause and hold on to something for a day or two, you may find that you really don't need to put that on the table. So recognizing those differences is important.
Perfect. Nigel, how would you encourage adults today to change the narrative or the language? So many times we'll say or hear, back in my day, I did, I walked 20 miles in the snow, and like Lisa and the youth are saying, it's a different time frame. So what language how can we shift that mindset, and what does that language sound like?
And I think she kind of hit on it as well, now, as far as honestly just talking about it, having a discussion. For myself, we actually have a curriculum that we hold with the students where we discuss social media, and we discuss violence in the media and the advertisements. And it kind of just focuses on how these things make you feel. You're experiencing them, like she said, through a different lens from older generations may have experienced, or that someone older than you may experience it. So I think that it's just important to highlight the conversation in general, just talking about it in general. It doesn't have to be a big conversation. It doesn't have to be really drawn out, but I think just asking children or students in general, how does social media make you feel?
Right.
How does this advertisement make you feel? Or things like that. So I think it's just a conversation in general.
Absolutely. We shouldn't be afraid of that. And so, Ms. Karen, this last question I'll gear to you before we go out into the audience. I often see our young people constantly taking selfies. It could be a trend, and we also need to be mindful of the TikTok trends. But many times, constant selfies, that's an indicator of low self-esteem. How would you encourage us adults to pour into the youth? What does that look like to boost their self-esteem? And how have you done that?
That's a great question. I think being authentic as an adult, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a teacher, is really, really important. The other thing, I often tell the kids I work with that comparison is the stealer of joy.
Come on now.
So if you are taking these selfies, if you're looking at yourself, if you are comparing yourself to others, it's stealing your joy. It is just, it's destructive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, can we stop it? Probably not. I think it's an inside-out job where we have to build that self-esteem from the inside. You know, oftentimes kids will say to me, you know, well, I'm having, and it's teenagers, a lot of teenagers I see, I think I'm overreacting to this, or it just came out of my mouth. And I think one of the things that sometimes they need to hear is not only are your feelings valid, but it's normal to feel that way. It's normal to feel the ups and downs, and, you know, we have to watch when it spills into a true mental health issue, but I think a lot of kids really just need validated. And that validation from that one trusted adult, you know, but really that social media, that comparison, I can't say it all the time.
Yeah.
It'll steal your joy.
Absolutely, and we see a lot of adults do that as well. So I'm going to grab the mic, and anyone in the audience, number one, I applaud you for being here, regardless of your reason you're here. I wish this room was completely filled, because that's how we stimulate the conversation, hear our youth, and then as adults, we can make proper changes, appropriate changes. Is there any questions or that you would like to address to the panel, or just a comment that you would like to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
My question is for Mr. Leslie. We have some beautiful, articulate, amazing young ladies here, but we also invited young men, and young men did not want to sit on the panel, share their feelings, and you know there's a whole lot going on in their lives as well. So how would you encourage them to be able to be comfortable with sharing what's going on with them, because we know it's big.
Yeah, that's a very great, that's a really great question, and to be honest, it's very tricky. I would say that majority of the students that I work with and are referred to me happen to be male students as well. And the biggest challenge is to get them to open up and express themselves. So I wouldn't say that I have the immediate answer to say, you know, this is exactly what I can do or what we can do, but I can say that is a wonderful question and a challenge that myself I take on and do my best to, like I said earlier, to make it as welcoming as possible for them to, you know, understand that it's okay for them to express themselves openly. And that, you know, not just myself, but other school staff in general, this is a safe place for you to come and to be open and vulnerable with how you feel. So it's a challenge. We host many events as well, but we notice the same thing where it can be more female oriented. But we're doing our best to address everyone and welcome everyone to be a part as much as possible.
Definitely, because we know that our young boys experience mental health issues as well, if not so more, but they feel like they have to internalize it and you better not cry, and showing that weakness, and we need to get over that. Thank you for your question. Is this addressed to any panelists or youth or?
No, just any, yeah.
Okay, so this is for any panelists. How did COVID isolate our students, and how do we balance the negativity? Anybody can take it. Do we have another microphone, or should I just kind of? I didn't know, like, having one on both ends, or? Yeah, no worries.
Personally, for me, I was already kind of introverted and shy, but having to be home and like you're doing everything through a screen, so you kind of like, I got used to the isolation. And like at first it's like, oh, I want to go to school, I want to be able to see my friends, but then you just got so used to it. And so when I started in high school, I went to York Tech, so I didn't know very much people, but I kind of wanted to stay with that trend. I didn't like really see a point of getting out there too much. I knew some people, and that's kind of something that's followed me through. And it's also just who I am in general, but it definitely did impact me in the sense that I didn't feel as much of a need to be out there because I had already been exposed to the difficulty myself more and had gotten used to that aspect.
Excellent. I have a young lady next to you.
I would say that COVID, the isolation that came with COVID definitely pushed teens to, I wouldn't say face whatever problem is like pushing down, but it definitely made the things come up to surface because when you're at school, you're very busy, you're talking to your friends, you're doing schoolwork. Being at home, you're forced to, if you're doing homework, I know for me, like COVID, the isolation really forced me to start looking at things that I would usually shove deep down, and it made me realize how much stuff I would usually just shove down, push away, and say that I'm okay. And I know for a lot of kids that COVID isolation was maybe more harmful than good, although we couldn't go to school, which was the key for health precautions, but I would definitely say that a lot more harm to teens than good. Some even took their life because the isolation was too much. So I definitely would say back to like the recovery from that, it honestly starts with small steps, like going outside, I guess, talking to people, getting involved in school programs.
Excellent.
I know with the isolation, it was something that also, it affected, I feel like when you're isolated, it makes you not be able to put your thoughts through like a filter of other people as well, which can be a good thing and also a bad thing. I know that personally I suffer with a lot of anxiety, and my anxiety would come from sickness and the need to be clean and things like that. So I feel like it really increased during that time. I feel like time helps you recover from that sort of thing, and also getting help when you need it, whether it could be bio help, like getting medication or therapy, or just being able to connect with people. Yeah?
You have a comment for what you're saying?
I just want to confirm and emphasize a little bit more on what the panelists are saying. And when it comes to COVID isolation, there was a lot of teens, when it comes to mental health, that they truly realized how critical their mental health was. Because through isolation comes silence, and through silence the mind speaks more. And that's when the minds of the teens start to hammer them a little bit more than usual. Yes, sometimes we have school before COVID, which was could be an excuse to not keeping ourselves in our rooms or quiet or doing something to not hear our minds a lot. But once COVID took those opportunities away, then there was truly nothing we could have done to keep our minds quiet. So it just opened an opportunity for them to speak up. So this is a little confirmation of what the panelists are saying. Thank you.
Thank you for confirming our youth panelists. This question is for the adults. Mandated reporting versus safe relationship.
We don't have enough time for that?
Keep it to 30 seconds to a minute, Lisa, to all panelists. I would be mindful, but yes, mandated reporting versus safe relationships. We've heard a lot about safe relationships, but we also know as adults in positions.
The short answer is both are necessary, both are required. However, I think that with the changes in law that comes along that pushes the mandated reporting and expands it from beyond maybe the typical circles, that becomes a challenge. But the relationship is important, and I've talked a lot about relationships, but it's the appropriate relationship that matters. We're not talking about building relationship with someone to violate in any way. We're talking about building a relationship and connection to understand who a person is, what they are experiencing, and to dialogue with them so that you are building that trust. And when they are struggling, you might be the connection to them getting support or help. So that is the relationship we're talking about. But I think, the answer succinctly, both are necessary and required. I just think we have to look at it differently, and there's a lot more to say about that.
I appreciate that, Lisa. Do any of the adults have any addition to say in regards to that, briefly?
Just briefly, I struggle with this all the time. I have a disclaimer in the very beginning of therapy that I have to report things, and clearly I'm a mandated reporter, but that is one of the things that kids really come to me and say, I'm scared to tell anyone this because you're gonna call somebody and I'm gonna be taken out of the home. And it's definitely on a case-by-case basis, but I have to say I struggle with it all the time. And building that trust can be destroyed with a phone call. And there's no easy answer, but I'm right there with you. I struggle with that. Yep.
I agree 100%. For myself, like I said in the beginning, I do my best to set boundaries, make it clear, what type of relationship this is and what it's going to be. But at the same time, I don't withhold anything, and if I have to report it, I'm going to report. I always keep that in mind as well because I want what's best for them, regardless of how long the relationship is or how far we may have come. But it is a struggle.
Yeah, that is definitely a tough balance. This question here, a young person who is obsessed with social media, how do you monitor it or limit the access? In the school settings or in therapy settings, how do you foster that conversation of what is healthy social media interactions? And I'll start with the adults, and it could, since you have the mic down there, and then I'll ask you.
Again, that's another tough question. I talk about social media all the time with the kids I work with. I also really try to partner with the parents, and depending on the age of the child. One of the hard and fast rules that I ask parents to put into place if their kid is overusing social media is to have that phone at a different place of the house, not by their bed, by their pillow overnight. I also ask parents ask the kids to share passwords with their parents. Now, I'm talking about cases where, it's been pretty extreme. I'm not talking about kids we trust. I'm talking about when it's gone to that place where they're over the edge, obsessed, and maybe meeting people inappropriately. so I have really partnered with the parents and asked them to really put boundaries around that. And not having social media too young, I think, is a really, really good thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other adult panelists want to answer the question?
Thank you for sharing what you shared, but immediately I went into mom mode and kind of old school, and my kids, you know, privacy, you get that when you're grown. So asking to share a password, that's just not in my vocabulary. If you're gonna have those things in the house, because in most cases, parents are paying for it, so it's yours. And so if they're accessing social media and doing, and having various accounts, I'm gonna be on your account too. And it's the same thing, I have grandkids now, and you know, your phone is a privacy. You don't have any privacy, so their phone gets checked regularly. They know that. And so I think those boundaries come with how we set our kids up in the beginning to understand that and appreciate what we can access, because it's the gateway to a whole lot of things. And sometimes we think because our kids are entertained by these devices and technology and they're not bothering us, that everything is good. And in a lot of cases, everything is not good. So really recognizing the importance of that. I think we're getting our cue that it's
I'm like Lily Wade,
but yeah, I just wanted to say kind of, you know, with old school ways, I just, that haven't gotten quite there yet where I'm going to ask the little body that I'm taking care of, well, can I have your password, and can I, no, because when we
our youth, and briefly, I'd like to hear, did you ever notice that you were on social media too much? And if so, when was the epiphany of, I need to back it up? Or did you set boundaries from the very beginning, your parents maybe, to say, I want to minimize my access? So I'm curious to how you navigate social media and if it's ever been an issue.
Growing up, I was on, not social media, but definitely the internet a lot, with like online games and things like that. And definitely my parents set boundaries, and I knew what I wasn't supposed to get into. I was very much a stickler. And I have shown myself being obsessed with social media when I was younger, well, with the internet. So when I was younger, my parents had like, before 12, you can't go on the internet. And then after 12, you can go and play on the internet. But I think just having that experience with my parents, helping me realize those types of things, and it helps me be able to notice when I was older, when I started to become obsessed with social media, and I would use it as a point of, as a point of comparison for my peers, and I would be like, look at how well everyone is doing, and I'm not doing very well. Especially when I was socially anxious, I would look at everyone else in their social lives and compare myself. I feel like one thing that definitely helped me limit social media was deleting it, but not completely going off of it. And I mean that as in making it harder for myself to access it. Because when I would delete it from my phone, I would just go click the app. Now, what I'm gonna have to do is go and type in Instagram on the search bar, and it would make it, I would just be like, I don't feel like doing all that. And I wouldn't get the notifications or anything either, and that helps me have a more healthy relationship with social media. And now I don't feel like I use it.
Very well, very well. Other young ladies? Great answer.
I would say for me, my parents definitely made it a rule that at night, my mom will take my phone. Now that I'm 17, she doesn't take my phone anymore, but because my parents had that at the beginning, I do it for myself now. At nighttime, I charge my phone up and I put it far away from my bed, so that, because I know I don't want to get up to go get it. And then social media, when it comes to like TikTok or anything, there's an app that I use, it's called Opal, and you like can block off your app for however many hours. So when I'm in school, it's blocked off until 3:30 until I get out of school. And then when I'm at home, it's open until 5 p.m. and then after that it's blocked out for the whole night. So then I don't have it until the next day again. I put it for myself as a boundary for myself. I feel like, again, you're consuming other people's life. I have my own life to live. I don't just want to be consuming other people's life. And I definitely think, for me, the age that I don't think I ever really got obsessed with social media, but I definitely did notice social media impacting, like my grades, my sleep, my health. So I think at the age of like 15, I figured that, I'm pretty big now to make choices on my own, so make the right choices, and yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
I think like the peak for me with like more social media use, I wasn't like obsessed, but like using it so often was especially during like COVID when like I was just home and like people do these online classes and I hate online classes, so like, I wouldn't even like focus sometimes, and like it's just like during the class or like throughout the day you're home, so you were just scrolling. And I like grew out of that, but like something that I do to keep myself in check too is that, especially like on iPhone, I don't know how it works on Android, but on iPhone it lets you like limit like your daily use for an app. Like if you have Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever, you can put, okay, well I only want to use this for like an hour today, tops. And it'll like track how long you have an app open for. And once you meet that limit, it'll tell you. And like you can say, okay, give me like a few more minutes, or like that's it, I'm done for today. And like that's helped me especially, and also like by 10:30, 11:30 depending, my phone will immediately just go into sleep mode. And so I won't get notifications from apps. I only have it set that like, family members can like message me if anything important comes up throughout the night. But that it blocks out any other distractions so that I can just go through my night and not continuously be distracted by social media and other.
Fantastic. You ladies have been articulate, the maturity in your responses. I wish I had that insight and maturity at your age. It would have saved me a lot of problems. So I'm extremely impressed. I know it took a while for you to get there, to navigate life in your, seniors or older in high school, but just absolutely remarkable. I would like to take any other questions from the audience. And congratulations again on your second place.
So just let me first say that I love all the insight that you guys are giving. But I know that it takes a journey to get to this point, especially for like my fellow high school students. So I'm curious as to who would you say is like the one mentor in your life who helped you to get to this point? And like what traits do they have that you were really like, oh, I like that, and maybe when I'm older I can do that for the next generation?
Was this directed to the youth or yes? See, another great question. I'm so impressed.
I'll start since I have the mic, but someone for me was definitely my mom. I could always just see how hard she worked and how caring she was towards us, and the fact that she always strived to, one, provide for us and also just protect us. And she always cared for me and understood me in a sense and showed me that compassion that I needed. And so even seeing her go through things, or just how she would react towards me, kind of just made me want to strive to like be like that, or even like surpass that in a sense and be better. She would always tell me to be better and how the sky's the limit. So I always listened to that, and she was always very supportive through my poetry and like happy that I was able to find a way to express myself. So, I mean, just finding someone that you know, one will support you and your goals and your passions, but that also you can just look to, and that won't let you down. Definitely makes a difference. And like, I'm sorry, because like what you said, it is a journey, but one of the most important aspects of it is just to be patient with yourself. You can't expect to, you know, make it from this spot all the way here in one day or a week. Sometimes it takes years, but it's having that patience with yourself and then giving yourself the room to grow and that patience with yourself and understanding yourself. Just the same compassion that you would give to other people, we often just forget to do that for ourselves.
Well said, well said. Anyone else in the youth panel would like to?
For me, I've been blessed and very thankful for all the mentors that I've had in my life. I would definitely say my parents, my older brother, and Miss Love, who is one of my teachers. I used to go to her for everything. She was and is still a very good mentor. Definitely, I would say looking up to people who traits that you want to like inhabit at some point, or people who are in your career field or interest in whatever it is. For example, Ms. Love, she's a woman in leadership, and I love leadership positions. She carries herself really well. She gives very good advice. You can come to her for anything. My mom, like as you said, it's a journey. Since at a young age, my parents have always instilled like sky's the limit. You are your biggest enemy. If you don't allow yourself to grow, then you just won't grow. My brother, having people who are role models in your life, my brother has always been a role model to me when it comes to academics, how he carries himself, the type of friends that he makes. I would definitely say the type of friends that you surround yourself is very important. Whatever group of friends you hang out with, you will eventually become them.
Yeah.
I think that definitely my parents, I just have a lot of memories of being at stores and things like that and just seeing my parents go and talk to anyone and be able to do that. And that was definitely something that I admired, especially growing up being very shy. And then outside of that would definitely be Mrs. Wright. When I first came to the library, I was very shy and anxious, and then I remember she like introduced me to everyone, and that like definitely helped me a lot. So I think that it's it's definitely a mix of a lot of things, and having mentors just in the home and also outside the home. And what Kailey said, just being patient and compassionate for yourself. Like, some days you might not be as outgoing as you want to be, or you feel like you can never say the right thing. But other days you might feel like you smash every single social interaction. And I think you should just, be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself.
Being a part of this panel, this event has given me so much hope that our youth are knocking it out the park. They are articulate, they're smart. Despite what you may see on the news, that's just a small portion of whatever our youth may be going on. But this is to say, the future is bright. The future is bright. Is there anyone else that would like to share or have a comment or a question? Yes, ma'am.
I have a big mouth, you don't have to come back.
Oh,
This is for the teens. I'm thinking of how movies have glorified bullies and cliques like Mean Girls. You guys know that movie? I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know what school life is today. If the anti-bullying campaign has come anywhere, if you guys or people in school would actually step up and say to the bully that tripped the kid, leave him alone, you're being a jerk. Or is that just what us old people want to hope that you guys are doing better than we are?
I think that, let me think. So high school definitely isn't like the movies, and I think that like a lot of kids nowadays, we had to come to terms with that because we grew up around a lot of social media and media in general, and an expectation of what it's supposed to look like, and then coming to terms with how it's not can definitely hurt. I think that bullying is definitely less overt, though it can be overt. It's just more in ways that are condescending towards you or making you feel little or excluding you, which can hurt as much as overt bullying. Because it's like, with overt, you tell the person how you feel and they're mean to you, but then when they're unclear about it, it could be like, is this person being nice to me, or are they really just trying to make fun of me? I think that a lot more people who are more sensitive to other people and their emotions will go and step up. But I do also think that there is people who you can talk to one-on-one and they're nice, but then when they're with their friends, they want to show off and be rude to other people. And so I think that it definitely depends.
Okay. Anybody else like to share on that?
Just to add on to what she said, high school is definitely not like the movies where you see the bully just go up to a random person and push them. Now it's more like the bullying happens within friend groups, so I feel like it's kind of more harder to like address it as like an outsider. Because if I see a group of friends and let's say there's a person in there, you can tell that they're pretty uncomfortable with the friend group, or you can sense that the friend group is not being so nice. To me personally, I'm not sure how I would address that because I don't know if that's like the dynamic of their friendship. Maybe that's how a friendship is built on. Believing some people's friendship is built on being with each other. So I would definitely say it's definitely different from the movies. Just like she said, like you'll have like one person who's nice when they're alone, and then very different alone with their friends. So I definitely say it depends on the person.
Okay.
I would say I feel like a lot of movies just kind of like over dramatize it in a sense. Like it's something that occurs, but it's more like it can even come off as teasing. And I have never really seen it physical wise, but it's also just like little snickers here and there sometimes, or like someone just saying comments to you. And I haven't really seen it much in like high school, but my experience with it in middle school and being able to see it was kind of just like a group of girls and just them being okay individually. Like, you know, as soon as they got in a little group, they'd just be like teasing someone or walking by someone and muttering little words. And as much as we like to believe that like a lot of people will just come up and say something, that's not always the case. I have, my account in middle school was this little group of girls just walking around the gym after another girl and teasing her because of her weight. And in that account, like somebody else got upset and went to go tell somebody. And so in that situation, it was figured out, but then it came to the sense of, oh, because you told somebody, now we're gonna bother you. So it like varies in that sense, because as much as sometimes people want to speak up, then they're also targeted.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments from the audience about what's being said?
Well, I would just,
Okay.
what I'm gonna say is, like, nowadays, we have to learn how to, instead of, I hear society say, self-care, self-pamper, and that's, that can lead you to isolation right there. But if you, at the end of the day, do something called self-examination,
Yeah.
Checking yourself out and say, was I the problem there? Or was that those kids wrong for me? Because everybody's not, you want to be friends with everybody. You want to be kind to everybody. You want to have, you know, some type of camaraderie with whoever you meet. But sometimes people just have bad intentions for you. Or they're jealous of you, or, you know, you're not like them, so you're weird, whatever. You know? So you have to do self-examination and see where you were in that problem. And if you weren't part of the problem, don't beat yourself up so much. Don't be so hard on yourself. Because a lot of times we go into our own head and isolate ourselves, and that's the enemy's playground. He wants to get in there and just tear stuff up. So next thing you know, everything you're seeing and doing is distorted. So in order to bring that back into focus, just look at yourself, take a few minutes a day, you know, at the end of the day, just analyze, how did I play a positive role in today's activities, you know? And I just wanted to make that strong.
Thank you.
We've talked about a lot today, and we covered a lot of ground. What I want to call us to do is can we as a group identify some of the major topics that we covered? And I'd like to be able to have individuals say, I would like to at another time get together and talk about this topic. And I'd like to see it a mix of adult and teens. I also would like to see additional teen-led groups. We currently have a group of teens that meet here that talk about ADHD and how it affects their life and the things they're doing. And that's a teen-led group. So any topics that really came out that you think that we could go one step further with in our discussions?
I thought it was covered pretty well, but I don't know what from the adult perspective, I don't know, for teens.
That was a question you weren't prepared for. So what I'm asking is that you get back to us and share with us the information you have. In your packets that the teens received is information about how to contact Miss Joan Wright. She is our teen services manager, and she would more than love to hear the things that you would like to continue with and have that additional discussion. I'm going to leave a notepad up here on the front, and if you'd like to leave your email address so that we can connect with you at another time, I would appreciate that as well. As we begin to close, I want to remind you that there is water out back there, and there are some snacks that you can grab and enjoy. I think some of our teen artists are still here. You may want to get pictures with your art, and with the award, I'm sure you got some the other night, but maybe we can include that a little bit more. And go ahead and take some time to mingle and talk to one another. I think part of what we kept saying is conversation, building relationships, and that's something that we can do here. And it's one of the goals of these community conversations is to build those relationships. On the table where you came in and you got your program, there are now feedback frames on those tables, and it asks a couple of questions, and you have the opportunity to drop a little chip down in the ones that apply to you. So if you please take a moment to do that, that helps us see a little bit more about what our impact has been through this program today. So thank you, everyone, for coming. I really appreciate